See, my starting to scare. So she's not just our wing exercise planner at Travis. She's also a first shirt at Lackland. Great person. She's also advancing her broadcasting career. She's actually doing shows with Doc Springer, but she's got a show titled Veterans Voices that airs every second Monday at 7. So, giving her a little plug there. So we're very grateful to have her on board with us. Senior, you there?
I am here.
Awesome.
All right, so good afternoon, 349th Air Mobility Wing. It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. As Senior Watkins alluded to, you guys see me today as Mrs. Scare, your 349th Air Mobility Wing exercise planner. I work in the IGI office. That is my regular 9 through 5, Monday through Friday job. But outside of that, I too am a reservist still, serving as a Senior Master Sergeant, First Sergeant. I am actually assigned to the 74th Aerial Port, which is out of Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland. So on my reserve weekends and UTAs, I'm flying down to San Antonio and taking care of about 200 aerial porters as their first sergeant. So I've got a lot of different hats and roles that I'm playing. And in addition to that, Senior Watkins also mentioned that I have recently stumbled across an opportunity to be a television co-host for a local show here in the Bay Area called Veterans Voices. I actually do have a connection with Doc Springer. She's actually one of our associate producers of the show. So I'm very honored to have her and Chris come on previously and speak a lot about some very pertinent and relevant things. And I'm actually just going to kind of do a little continuation because they did mention the word connection quite a bit. And that is absolutely a niche of mine. Anybody that knows me, whether in a personal or professional capacity, knows I love being connected to people and how much that resonates and makes such a difference, not only in our resilience, but how we do life, period. So I'd like to kind of start off first. There are a ton of you on here. I'm excited. I will tell you that this is my second go around at Operation Bold. When we had Operation Bold in the wing prior a few years ago, I was actually in the seat that Senior Watkins is in as the main lead MC and facilitator. So it's exciting to be plugged back into the program, even though I'm in the civilian capacity now. I'm still able to work behind the scenes and help get together a lot of these things for you guys. So this is an honor and a pleasure to be able to come in and facilitate. So along the lines of connection. So if I were to say, and I'm not gonna give out my singing skills right now, I don't wanna have to blow y'all away, but if I were to say to you right now, reach out and touch somebody's hand, like the good Diana Ross, she gave us that song. If I were to say, reach out and touch somebody's hand, and I know we've got the Rona going on, so we shouldn't really be touching anybody, but who is the person's hand that you would want to reach out to right now? I want you to just think about it. Think about who that person is that immediately came to mind. If you had an opportunity right now to reach out and touch somebody's hand, who would that be? Is there any brave soul willing enough to let us know who that person is and why they came to mind? Do I have any takers? Feel free to unmute yourself and share.
I'll share.
Okay.
I am Sergeant Phillip from the 45th. I would reach out and want to touch my husband's hand. He is deployed and he was supposed to be back in April, but with everything going on, his date just keeps getting pushed back and further, and it just seems like I'm never going to see him. Sorry, I'm getting kind of emotional.
That's
but,
okay.
We miss him so much.
Okay. First of all, I want to tell you, thank you so much for sharing that. That to me is actually a very prime example of why we need to have a discussion like this. Because as we are in the midst of a time where connections are a little shaky and a little harder to achieve, my question is, what are we doing to stay connected with these different constraints going on? Because we are longing for those people, their physical presence, to be around us. Do I have another taker? Anybody else want to share who they would like to reach out and touch right now, whose hand they'd like to touch? Yes, Sergeant Middlestat, what you got for us, sir?
I'd like to reach out and touch my grandma. She passed away a while back, like way back when I was in high school. But she came over during World War II when my grandpa was over there fighting, and she was just all around hardworking and just was always there to make sure we were good to go. And she kind of reminds me, my wife is kind of the same way, and she's been through a lot with me through deployments and whatnot. So luckily I get to touch my wife whenever I want, appropriately, of course. But so yeah, I would say my grandma. It's been a long time since I've seen her, but we think about her on every day and how amazing she was for us and to us.
Thank you so much for sharing. That brings up another great point too. So he selected somebody who's actually no longer here with us. However, he has still been able to find a connection through what his grandmother was able to provide for him through his wife. And that to me is also a very key indicator of how we do life and how we connect with people, because they may remind you of somebody else who had a very pertinent role to play in your life. So much appreciated for that. So I personally would love right now if I could reach out and touch. I'm a little bit of a mommy and a daddy's girl both. So if I could have the pleasure of touching both of my parents right now, I would totally do that. So here's a little background about me. I'm an Air Force kid. I was literally born into the Air Force. I was born on the 15th of October. So that was an actual Air Force payday, military payday. And I grew up in the life. So I don't know any other life outside of living in the Air Force. I had both of my parents were in. My dad retired and did a full 20. And then after that, I became a civilian for a little while as I was going to college. And then I married an airman. And then I became an airman myself. I'm still serving in the civilian capacity. And so I really don't know any other life but military. So what that has allowed for me is to be able to have so many connections all over the world through different time periods in my life. And it's been great because I've actually been able to sustain a lot of those connections throughout the years. Thank God for technology, right? So I've been able to reconnect with some folks that I had not, been able to see or physically be in their presence. So currently, as it stands, I live here in Sacramento. My family, they all live on the East Coast. I am literally the only person from my family that lives way out here. So during this time where there are constraints on how we can see and interact and be around people, I am having to do so from 3,000 miles away from my own family. So how in the world do we stay connected in the midst of these different constraints? So first, I'd like to start off with a little definition, because I'm all for those teachable moments and those practical moments, right? So I want to start off with kind of the Webster's dictionary version of what in the world connection is, right? So if we're talking about connection is a relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. So it's not super profound there. Anywhere you find a tie or a link with something or someone else, that's considered a connection. So now the challenge becomes, all right, how are we cultivating these connections? Are we making them meaningful? Are they healthy connections? Are they unhealthy connections? I think everybody here, probably when I said that, started thinking about names and faces of things that may or may not be the healthiest connection for your life. So my hope is that as we have just taken the basic elementary definition of what connection is, that we can really start learning how to cultivate those connections. So when I said to reach out and touch somebody's hand, most of you probably thought of people more of a healthier connection type. Is there anyone willing or brave enough to share maybe an unhealthy connection? It doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It can be a thing like food or maybe certain activities that are not necessarily adding value to your life, but it's an unhealthy connection. Anybody brave enough? There's no pressure because I'm totally transparent and willing to share my own. What do we have?
Donald.
Yes.
I think an unhealthy connection was my old supervisor, non-military related, who would bite you off every step of the way at my first federal job and made you feel smaller and smaller every day until I got let go. That in itself is unhealthy because it questions yourself in the long run, not just in your job, but yourself.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, because that kind of brings up an issue of, you know, being around toxic leaders in our military culture and even outside of the military, as she mentioned. Unfortunately, we do know that not everybody, not all leaders are created equal. Let's just say it that way, right? And so we may have those instances where we are forced by way of position to be underneath leaders that are not necessarily the healthiest. They don't necessarily pour into us, mentor us, guide us, add value to our lives. And here's the thing, regardless of how they are, you are still responsible for fulfilling a duty, a goal, a mission. The show must go on, and you have to figure out how to maneuver that. So in that kind of example, if I can go back to you, ma'am, what did you find was helpful for you to figure out how to cope in that situation and still get the job done, even with that type of leader in your midst?
The team that I worked with knew that she was the worst person that I worked at, and people who came to our office are like, I'm so sorry you have her as a supervisor. And so it just goes back on the whole concept of this whole weekend is resiliency. Because when I was let go, even though I found another job, one of the people who were in a higher position of mine stated, look at it this way, this is going to be the worst supervisor you ever had. And as we always been taught, be the one that you don't want to be.
Yeah. So again, another great point, and thank you again for sharing. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm a big fan of like transparency, because I do believe that that truly helps others who are maybe not as willing to speak up, but maybe suffering in silence. So let me tell you, she mentioned a very key concept there with regards to connectivity, the fact that she had a team. She had others who could empathize with her, could understand, and were witness to what was happening around that whole crew, and they were able to rally together and still get a job done. I'm going to tell you guys right now, none of us on this call or in life period were meant to do life alone at all. Because if that was the case, there would not be a need for any of us here at all today. We all need to be connected to someone and something. We need to be connected to a someone to get jobs done, to make our families work, to move missions forward, whatever the case may be. We need things to be connected to help us resource-wise to accomplish those things. So the reality is we have to stay connected to things and people. How do we do that? What does that look like? I will tell you in my experience, because yes, as currently acting as a first sergeant, it is my responsibility to be connected to my people. And I started off, and shout out to my 349th LRS folks that are out there. They were my first squadron that I had the opportunity to shirt for, and they're a relatively small unit. So I found that my ability to connect with my airmen was so much easier because we were definitely a smaller, tight-knit family. And then I got deployed, and I deployed to a unit that had 220 airmen, and they're all new to me. And I knew that my time with them was going to be temporary. So you think about, that's a huge, tall order to go into a new environment that you're not familiar with it's like a ton of brand new people. And yet I'm charged with making sure that I am connected with each and every one of them, so that I know that if there's a need, or even if there's not a need and they just simply, just need a smile that day or something, that I am there to be able to do that for them. So, in our reserve force, we find it might be a little challenging too to stay connected with our fellow airmen, because we're not together all the time, and we only see each other once or twice a month, and then maybe a couple weeks out of the year. And so one of the challenges as a reservist that a lot of people have faced is, how do we stay connected? Well, here we go. We are in a very technologically savvy era. I need everybody right now to hold up their cell phone. Hold up your cell phone if you got it. And if you're using it to do the Zoom call, it's okay. This thing right here, it can totally make or break connections. And it is really a way for us to stay connected in so many ways. But I will tell you, there are some instances where it may not be the best source of connection either, based off of how you use it. So I'm going to bring up some information that when I was putting this together, I was kind of doing a little research, because I'm not going to lie to you guys. I like the technological advances, but a part of me is a little old school too. I remember the days of letter writing and getting cards in the mail and how excited I used to be. And I'll share a little short story for those trainees that are out there, because there's a lot of you on here. I remember when I went to basic training. Now, mind you, I went to basic training and I was 26 years old already, married to an airman, had a son. So I was already somebody's wife, somebody's mom. Definitely had lived a little bit of life already, but we still, we weren't able to use our cell phones to just, talk to people regularly, right? And they did have the payphone back then, but letter writing was the thing. So I remember our very first phone call, and you called home or to whomever you're calling, and you have that real quick time where you have to rattle off what your address, your mailing address is going to be, and let them know that you've survived the first week or two, and then you hang up the phone. So I made my phone call to my at the time it was my husband. He's my ex-husband now, but at the time my husband, who happened to also be at Lackland because he was cross-training into a new career field at the time. So we were both on Lackland. I called him in his lodging room and said, hey, this is the address to where everybody can write me. And we had our son at the time who I was specifically excited about getting a letter from. This is my address. Make sure you get this out to my parents, get this out to my friends. That way, when it's time for the letters to start rolling in, I'll be able to get some letters, right? And it'll keep me encouraged and kind of keep me through this process. So then about a week and a half later, the TI comes in, MTIs come in, and they're starting to hand out all these letters. And I'm just eager because I just know I'm getting ready to get all these letters from all my family and friends, and nothing. And I was the dorm chief too. So I swear I felt like every person in my flight got a letter but me. And I saw all these people looking at me with all these sad faces like, oh, she must not have no love in her life. She is not well connected. So I was feeling a type of way, right? So the next time I was able to get a phone call, I called my ex-husband and I'm like, hey, did you send my address to everybody? And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. I wrote down the address on a napkin and the maid came in and cleaned my room and threw the address away. And I've been waiting for you to call back to give the address so that way I can get it out to people. Now, I'm not going to lie. I wanted to say a few choice words, but I keep it professional. So I was able to give him my address again, and then shortly after start receiving letters again. But let me tell you, I'm not going to lie. In that moment, I felt a sense of disconnection because everybody else was getting letters, and it was like all this anticipation and eagerness that you're waiting because you know that it's coming. You know that you don't even know what the person's going to say in the letter, but just the fact that you get to open it, all this, excitement, and I didn't get to experience that right away. And then I felt like I looked foolish in front of my whole flight as the dorm chief. So I said all that to say there is a level of physical excitement that comes over you when you feel connected with other people. So there have actually been studies done regarding the impact of what connection does to you in a physical sense, as well as in your emotional sense, and as well as in your mental sense, right? So let me, I'm just going to read off something really quick. Let's see here. Because this is actually kind of a contrast with the fact that we are in such a technological age. There are still a lot of people that feel a sense of loneliness, even with all this access to being able to reach people. There's still a sense of loneliness that can happen. So I'm going to read this to you guys. The physical effects of loneliness and social isolation are as real as any other physical detriment to the body, such as hunger, thirst, or pain. Loneliness changes our thoughts, which changes the chemistry of our brains. The brain goes into a self-preservation state that brings with it a lot of unwanted side effects. So this includes increased levels of cortisol, the stress hormone that can predict heart death due to its highly negative effects on the body. So this increase in cortisol triggers a host of negative physical effects as well, including a persistent disruption in our natural patterns of sleep. As a result of increased cortisol, sleep is more likely to be interrupted by micro awakening. So this reduces our ability to get enough quality sleep, And in time, that starts to erode all over our overall health and our well-being. So, and just hearing that, and you just think about that, there's probably several of us, and I've definitely been in that space where I have felt all of those things. My sleep has been disrupted. I haven't, and that to me has also disrupted some other physical parts of me as well. And so, what I'd like to encourage you in the sense of connection is whatever way works for you. It may not necessarily be that cell phone. It may actually still be a letter. It may be a card. It may be a drive-by, because now I've been on social media and I've seen where people are driving by people's homes and saying, hey, step outside your front door. I'm just going to wave at you as I drive by. Those small acts of connection go such a long way. And one thing that I don't want to see happen in the midst of our current situation is anybody feel that sense of disconnection. I liked what Chris said in the previous segment regarding social/physical distancing. I too prefer the term physical distancing as opposed to social distancing, because right now is definitely not a time where we need to distance ourselves socially. We absolutely need to stay connected, because at some point, the current posture that we're in, we're going to go back to what's considered a new normal or a way of moving forward, where we will be able to be within reach of each other again. What we don't want to do during this time is feel a sense of social disconnection, where when it is time for us to come back together, there's that sense of awkwardness. There's that lack of cohesiveness within our teams and in our groups. We don't want that. We want to continue cultivating true connection with one another. So I want you guys, I'm going to give you a little homework assignment with the connection piece. When this is all said and done today, and I hope that you guys are diligent at doing this, I want you to think of one person that you haven't connected with in a while, and shoot them a note and tell them that you're thinking of them. It can be as simple as I'm thinking of you, or it can be maybe a longer paragraph of telling them why you're thinking about them. But I will guarantee you that whatever response you receive, if you end up getting a response, it will probably be so heartfelt and so welcomed. I have had that happen throughout my time right now where we have been physically distanced. And it means a lot to me, because like I told you guys earlier, I'm away from my family. So my family here in California is my work family, my military family. So that's who I rely on as part of my local family. But I've been hearing from people that I haven't spoken to in a long time. And it has energized me in a way that you guys can probably see the smile on my face. Like, it just makes such a difference when you're staying connected with people. So that is my connection discussion. And I kind of want to segue that into another part of this discussion, because while we may be focusing on connecting and staying connected with other people, there is a responsibility to connect with ourselves. And Chris mentioned that, and Dr. Springer mentioned that previously as well. Because we do have some time on our own and not be around so many people, this is such a great time to do some serious self-awareness. This is a great time to check in with yourself and say, how are we doing? Where are you mentally? Where are you emotionally? Where are you financially? You know, these are times where, and this is what I'm going to tell you. It may be hard to face that. If you've got a mirror, I want you to look in your mirror later, and I want you to remember this discussion. I want you to look in the mirror, and you need to talk to yourself and tell yourself exactly what you see. If there are parts of what you see that you don't like, and I don't mean just in a physical sense, I mean truly in like an emotional space, I need you to write those things down. And I want you to start thinking about ways that you're going to change that or make that better. Because guess what? The energy that you're giving off is what other people are going to see about you. And I want to see healthy connections from all of you. When I'm walking around the wing and I'm seeing you out and about, I want to be connected with you instantly, because your energy is right, because you've taken time to be self-aware about what's going on with you and fixing those parts or just enhancing the parts of you that you know need work. But we have to face the music. We've got to be honest about who we are and what we're doing. I've had a very humbling moment recently, because just like Chris, he was a first sergeant. So, and first sergeants that are out there know this is it's wearing that diamond means a lot. There's a lot that comes with that role. And it's not just about the first sergeants in the room, because there are other airmen too, and other supervisors and other folks who experience different types of situations. But first sergeants in particular definitely take on a lot of the personnel type issues. And so last year, I lost 2 airmen. I lost 2 airmen in a very short amount of time between each other. One that I didn't get to know so well because I was brand new to the unit. The other one that I was deployed with and had spent some time with on an annual tour and just had a great relationship with. And regardless of how I was connected to those 2, it still hurt. And it was a lot. And as Chris alluded to, typically the first sergeants are who you go to get resources, to get linked up with help, to talk to. And I have to remind myself that I'm not invincible either. Just because I'm a first sergeant doesn't mean these types of things don't affect me. So I need to also have kind of my own core of first sergeants to help me as well, who I can download on, who I can be able to be vulnerable in front of. And so what I recognize in my time of self-awareness and self-assessment is that I need to do better with being more vulnerable. I don't always have to be the strong one. Even though that might be the expectation, taking a knee is serious. And Dr. Shauna Springer and I actually just did an interview. She interviewed me on my show last month about me as a leader taking a knee because it's necessary and it's okay. And it's okay to take that time out. So I just want to reiterate that because that's a very important point, especially during a time as this. I also want to make sure that, oh, sorry. Like a little message pop up on my computer. Sorry, guys. So I also wanted to go into one last piece of this, tying it all together with connection and being connected with yourself. Setting goals. How many of you guys at the beginning of the year, and it's okay if you're that guy that doesn't, you know, I don't do resolutions, but how many of you guys kind of like at the beginning of each year kind of start looking at some different goals and reestablishing some goals or setting new goals? Anybody here willing to say they do that? Okay. So with regards to that, whether you do it at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, you know, throughout the year, the point is having a focused goal, having intended targets in your life absolutely help the flow of your life too. So when we're talking about connectedness and we're talking about your personal connection with yourself, what exactly are you aiming for as you're going about your days? What exactly is happening as you are going day to day, especially during this time where we have some downtime and some of us may not necessarily be working full time anymore. What exactly is happening as far as your day-to-day progression? Because even though we are taking time off for ourselves, this can truly serve as a recharge time, right? Where we can start really reevaluating and refocusing on the direction that we want to head. So Sergeant Adams, do you have the SMART goals video to show? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a look at a video real quick, and then we'll come back and have a discussion.
Goal setting is a powerful tool in increasing productivity. In fact, setting goals can increase your productivity by 11 to 25%. But actually setting and working towards goals can be challenging. So let's get smart about goals. S. Specific. Ask yourself what you want to accomplish. And most importantly, why? M. Make it measurable. Are you able to tell when you've reached your goal? A. Attainable. Goals should stretch you so you feel excited, but within your current ability. R. Relevant. Set goals that are going to positively impact your life. Does this goal fit in with your other life's goals and dreams? T. Time-based. A goal with a time deadline will create a sense of urgency and give you the energy you need to complete it. Finally, once you achieve your goal, it's time to celebrate and set the next goal.
Okay, so SMART goals. How many of you guys have heard of that acronym before? I think a lot of us probably have, especially if you've done any sort of, yes. Okay, see a lot of head nods, a lot of thumbs raised. Okay, so we'll kind of break it down really quick. SMART, starting with S, talking about specific. So for that area, you want a goal that is direct, detailed, and meaningful to you. This can be a personal or professional thing. So if you're the type of person that wants your personal life to align with your professional life, great. If they're two different tracks, that's great too. But whatever is specific to you and the things that you want to accomplish, you want to go ahead and make sure those things are detailed and meaningful. Next is M for measurable. So make sure that it is quantifiable, some way that you can actually track the progress of it. So you know you started on this day, now we're on day 29. Where are we at? Have we made any forward movement? Are there any hindrances in the way that are blocking it? Are we just being lazy? Have we lost focus? Those are just thinking in terms of being measurable. Make sure it's something that you can actually track. And then we'll go with letter A, which is attainable. Your goal needs to be realistic. And so I'm going to tell you that's a challenge because some of us are a little bit more gung-ho than others and we want to conquer the world and take over immediately. How many of y'all remember Pinky and the Brain? Y'all remember Pinky and the Brain? Okay. Unrealistic. But that did not stop the flow and the determination. So I'm not even hating on them right now, but totally unrealistic. You want to make those goals attainable. So they don't necessarily, I mean, the level of degree or difficulty is totally up to you. But if it is truly something that you know you can obtain because you're going to work towards it, make it a thing. R for relevant. With this, you want to align with whatever your mission set is. So again, if it's a personal thing, make sure it's aligning with whatever you have purpose-wise for your life. Oh, I just brought up the word purpose, another favorite keyword of mine. Anybody that knows me, I will tell you right now, I'm all about flowing in purpose. When you figure out why you are here to do whatever it is you have to do, it just adds this extra motivation and energy to your life. Because when you know you're stepping out the door and you're achieving the things that are truly meaningful for you, and you know they're going to make such an impact on others in a very positive way, there's just something about that just keeps you going. So make sure these are movements that are very purposeful for you and relevant to whatever the goal is. For us as military members wearing the uniform, we each have specific mission sets. We have missions within our unit. We have missions within our wings. We have missions within our NAF and within our Air Force as a whole. Take pride in what your actual goal and your relevance is to your goal. That is so very important. And then T is your time-based. Goals have deadlines. Now, for some of you, what you may find is that your goal, your initial goal, may need to be stretched out and reevaluated, and you may need to add some time to it, or you may need to take some time away. Or once you've completed that, you might want to continue on with something very similar. There's nothing wrong with that either. But set a realistic timeline too for yourself. If you know that you've got something, you know, on the horizon, maybe let's say in the next couple of months, but you're lacking the resources, extend that goal out and don't feel bad about it. I think when we start thinking about goals and we feel a sense of not accomplishing them because we don't have all the parts to make it work, we start questioning whether or not that goal was really supposed to be a thing. And that's what I don't want to see happen as much, because we will allow outside influences and other things to really take us off the beaten path, when really we had a very focused effort at the beginning. We may not just had all the pieces to make it work. That's when I'm saying phone a friend, find your resources, and stay connected to people, because other people might have the pieces that you need to accomplish that very goal. So building your healthy connections in your relationships really does tie into you achieving your goals. Okay, so Sergeant Adams, if we can pull up that SMART worksheet as a guideline right now for creating our SMART goals. I want to show you guys this really quick because this is just a small little blueprint of what can help you guys get going with your SMART goal setting worksheet. So as you see on here, you've got your overall goal. You talk about why it's important to you, because most of us are usually motivated to do something when you know there's a certain level of importance to it. It's very rare that you find people that are motivated to do things that have no sense of importance or relevance to you. Then you can talk about resources. What resources and steps do you need to complete that goal? Be realistic in that too. Honestly, if it's something that you know requires something outside of your realm, like I said, find out who does have the resources, link up with somebody that may be willing to share their resources with you in order to attain your goal. And I'm going to tell you that piece right there, when you connect with another person and they're helping you achieve your goal, that probably fuels them too, by the way. So that's just another instant connection that you're making there. And then that's helpful for you in the future. So then you can go down and start checking, making sure that it is meeting each of those marks as far as the S for specific, the M for measurable, the A for attainable, the R for relevance, and the T for timed. Because the thing is, we don't want to waste a lot of time. There's so much life to be had, but we still don't want to waste a lot of time doing things that are not necessarily purposeful, meaningful, or relevant to what we have in store for our lives. So we can X out of there, Sergeant Adams. Thank you so much for showing that. Okay, so what I'd like to do before I get off is there is a survey that Sergeant Adams, if you can probably place in the chat, and I don't know if we had a method of sending it out to all of our attendees. But one big thing that Operation Bold has always been very, very passionate about is mentorship. So we have some top 3 members within the wing who are ready and waiting to be able to connect with you so they can help you with some of these goals that you guys are going to determine for yourself. Oh, by the way, yeah, if I didn't say that already, I want to start seeing some goals. So we have a survey that we'd like to get sent out to all of you, and Sergeant Adams just put it in the chat. And it's just 10 questions, and it's going to ask you guys some questions, a little bit demographic stuff, and then talk about goals. So what's going to happen is once we get your results from your survey, we intend on linking you up with a mentor, somebody who is able to take the goals that you have placed in your survey, and we'll link you up with somebody who's very confident in that area and can assist you with making sure that you're on the right trajectory to accomplish your goals. This is a very important step because we truly are passionate about making sure that you guys have people who are in your corner to see you win. Anybody that knows me knows I'm all about celebrating your wins, big and small. And so I am also a resource for any of you that may want to reach out as far as intended goals, discussions, connections. I'm here for it all. So if you guys have any questions, comments for me, I welcome that. I am here for you. I am very grateful to be able, again, to plug in with Operation Bold and serve you all, even in my capacity as Mrs. Scare, the wing exercise planner, and still Senior Master Sergeant Scare as a first sergeant, but I am here for you. So I just want to give you guys props for showing up today. We're so grateful to have you here. Chief Via, I'm going to give you a shout out. Thanks for joining us as well, ma'am. I know you're up after me, and just thank you for plugging in with the 349th today. I know you came from us, so this is probably familiar territory to you. But any questions for me before I sign off and give you guys a break? I see a hand raised. I'm not sure if it's a hand clap or a raised hand from, it looks like trainee, is it Kuria, Kuria?
Trainee Kuriakis report as ordered. It's Kuriakis, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry. I only saw part of the name. Did you have a question or comment, or were you just high-fiving me?
Well, it was a clap, but since I was called up already, so I might as well take this opportunity.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really do. So hopefully when you come back from basic training, I look forward to hopefully running into you at the wing. I say this to all the DNTF trainees because I get excited when I see your faces. And then when you're coming back to us as airmen and in your respective units, it's just great to see that transition. So I wish you all the very best for all of our trainees that are on the line today. You guys make me proud. Thanks for your choice to serve. Anybody else out there?
Ma'am, you have a question from Sergeant Igbeniweja from FSS.
Okay.
Hello? Oh, hi. I just wanted to point out something. While you were speaking about, talking about connecting with old pals or friends, a friend of mine just was messaging me on my other phone. We've not connected for like more than 3 years. I
Wow.
felt you actually maybe pulled her from somewhere. I don't know what you did, but thank you. Thank
I
you
was
very much.
speaking that into the
She
atmosphere. And I'm gonna
was,
tell you, it's such a great feeling when you're hearing from people. I'm gonna share just a little something. Senior Young already knows this story, but I just recently reconnected with somebody from high school. I'm dating myself right now because I'm gonna tell you how many years ago that was. I have not seen or heard from this person in 21 years.
Jesus Lord.
21 years, and we have nonstop been messaging because it's like all this catching up and like, what have you been doing for the last 21 years? But I will tell you, it's been so great having that connection, because that's literally taken my mind off the fact that I don't get to just reach out and touch people like I want to, but there's still so much goodness in being able to connect even through technology and hearing about what's happening with people from even a long time ago. So good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. I love hearing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sergeant Adams, anybody else? Any other?
Yes, we have trainee Cristobal.
Okay.
Ma'am, trainee Cristobal reports his word.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. So you said you were the what's called the physical, like you set up all the exercise.
Yes.
349th.
I am the wing exercise planner. Yes, sir.
Okay, so my question is like that kind of almost like falls into like almost like physical therapy or stuff like that about kinesiology, huh?
No, so yeah, great question, and total great question, especially coming from a trainee who hasn't had an opportunity yet to go to basic training and understand. So when we say exercise planner, it actually has nothing to do with physical fitness. It is actually all about, I guess the best way to explain it is, I am responsible for putting together the events. We'll call it an event where you guys are training on your actual military job so that we know that you're ready if something goes down and we got to send you out the door to go do your military job, that you're ready to do it. So when we say exercises, they're actually the training events that we come in and evaluate to make sure that you're ready to go. We're able to report to the wing commander and say, you know what, Airman, because you're going to be an airman someday, Airman Cristobal is ready to go. He's what squadron are you going to trainee Cristobal?
Aeromedical Squadron.
You're going to, you're going to Aerovac?
Aeromedical. AMDS.
What's your job going to be?
4 Alpha.
Oh, I'm a 4A as well. Look at that. We have the same job. Okay. So when it's time for you to come back and you're going to be participating in our wing exercises, we're going to make sure that you are going to be the best and ready for Alpha to go out and make sure these patients are being well taken care of, because you're handling the administrative processes exactly the way they need to be handled. So that is what I do as the exercise planner, to make sure that you're prepared and ready for your actual job. So great question, and thank you so much. 4A love in the house for sure.
Thank you.
Chief Villa, I believe Chief Villa is also 4A as well.
You better believe it. I am a proud 4 Alpha.
Look at that. All righty. Any others, Sergeant Adams? All righty. Well, thank you guys so much for this time. I really appreciate you all, and I look forward to seeing you all out in the wing. You guys take care and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Senior Master Sergeant Scare, we appreciate you coming on today. You're an excellent resource, a diamond, one of Travis's best as well, hanging out here, being a part of BOLD. Great resource for all the trainees and the 349th members out here. Thank you again. All right, team. So we got one of the best and brightest from Travis that went on to do big things. Our 4th Air Force Command Chief, Chief Villa. She's going to be coming on next. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back at 1600 and we'll get started with Command Chief Villa.